Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast in the format that you're probably used to seeing it and or listening to it. Last week was a nice beta test of the in-person interview remote satellite gimmick schnabitz. I'm forgetting the word for it, but basically what it means is we can record in person pretty seamlessly, and I think we might break it out again next week for our episode that we're going to release before Thanksgiving, because any excuse to go to William Oliver's is
that is good. I think it is actually called a schnabitz. So
is it
right on?
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's a schnabitz.
Sweet. Well, yeah, patent pending, trademark, register, whatever, patent schnabitz. So here we are, episode 117. We have an interview for you guys today that really was really a lot of fun. Just had a good conversation with John Yogodzinski. I can't believe I almost forgot his name. I'm so sorry, John. Please don't not hang out with us in January. John Yogodzinski and his stepdaughter, Kailey, who was there with him about the Print Hustlers podcast. And so before we get conference, not the podcast, they have that, but we're talking about the conference. We would never talk about another podcast on this show. Anyway, so before we get into that, though, it is Monday night. Travis, how was your Monday today there at Make Your Mark Design?
It was busy. I am seeing orders increasing, so we had a lot more activity with our orders over the weekend. So and we're still trying to finish out some orders that we had gotten for local clients. And I think I closed 2 more sales. I've got 1 more that's coming in tomorrow for another bulk order, and I'm like, man, I really, really, really hope that we can get all this done before the floodgates really open, because it's starting to trickle, but no complaints. Weekend was great. Arsenal won. They are top of the league by 5 points, and they will be through Christmas because they're doing a World Cup break right now, because the World Cup starts here in a few weeks or like in a week or something. It's the first time, or I don't know, I think it's the first time that they've ever done it in like our winter. They always do it in the summer, but it's because it's in Qatar this year. And if they did it in the summer, they would kill people because it would be too hot. So they broke up the middle of the Premier League season right in the middle of it. It's unprecedented. We have no idea how it's going to affect the season, but we've been playing all kinds of games, but they just keep winning. It's so fun to watch Arsenal.
That's awesome.
And no one else cares about that except for one guy in our Facebook group and me. We'll just move on from that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's fantastic. That sounds like it. And the Chiefs, I believe, did they pull out the victory? Yeah,
they sure did. Yeah,
that was
great. Good weekend. My fantasy teams did not pull out victories.
No, mine has not either. I am currently, I think, losing. I was up a little bit, but this guy I'm done. He's winning by 2 points, and he still has 2 players in the game, so we're done. But yeah, that's awesome. I was just telling you before we were recording, went to Montana over the weekend and toured some breweries, went to like 12 breweries or so in Montana. Apparently Montana as a state has more breweries than the entire nation. Like, it's the most breweries in one state. They have the record. So because Bozeman's a really big college town. Missoula is a huge college town. And then, of course, Billings is where we were. But yeah, it was a good time celebrating 21st birthdays. And there's a lot of stories that I have yet to even tell you off air about what happened those nights, which is a lot of fun. All at the expense of my nephew, who will never listen to this show, so I can tell them freely if I ever wanted to. But it was a great weekend with family. And so all around good. And today just kind of catching up because I took Wednesday through Friday off of work. So now it's just catching up on emails and calls and following up with clients and, doing all that kind of stuff. So overall, really good, but we can get into kind of what we have for today's episode or tonight's episode. Whenever you're listening to this, we're just recording it at night. You can listen to it whenever. Talk about a little bit, John reached out to you, or you follow him on social media. You saw he was there at this conference. So kind of talk about how this conversation came to be, and then we'll just go straight into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we started out in the interview with this. So basically I just saw that he was there and I was like, hey, come on the show and talk about, your experience. And he's like, well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It's really cool. And I was like, can we do a whole show for it? And he was like, I think we can. So guess what? You guys get a whole show of John and Kailey talking about Print Hustlers Conference in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yes, Fort Worth, Texas. So it sounded like a great time. You guys are about to hear even more about it. Get some great dad jokes. We put Kailey on the spot, ask her the magic questions, and here's some cool opportunities. You'll see if you're watching the video, or if you're watching the video edition, you're going to see a really awesome 4-hour embroidery piece that Kailey did that is incredible. So settle in, and we're going to go straight to our conversation, our main event with John Yogodzinski and Kailey Betz for this week's main event of the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, the main event.
All right, Travis, for this week's main event, we have an interview. I think it's everyone's favorite episodes when there's interviews because they hear less of you and I rambling, and there's a lot less waffle section in these episodes because we have other people that are far more interesting and oftentimes smarter than we are to come talk about cool stuff. So I'm super excited. One of these guests has been on the show before. He's a returning guest, and he is bringing with him his printer extraordinaire, which is an official position that was not decided upon 5 minutes before I pressed record and will be on all the new business cards that ever get printed for Kailey Betz, who is joining him for this week's main event. Please welcome John Yogodzinski and Kailey Betz. Welcome to the Print on Demand cast. John, welcome back. Kailey, welcome for the first time to the show. Thanks for taking time and chatting with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Kailey's really excited. She's just like chomping at the bit to get in on the discussion.
It's 8:00. I'm tired.
Well, I actually, the reason we're doing this is I followed John on social media, and John, you were recently at the Print Hustlers Conference down in Texas. And so I just contacted you and I said, hey, it'd be really cool if, you want to come on. We do like maybe a point of interest. You could just tell us kind of what some of the cool things that you learned. And you were like, yeah, that sounds great. But I'll tell you what, I've got enough to fill a whole show. So John, it's all on you, buddy. If this thing goes south, we're just going to shut up and you're just going to have to fill the whole time.
Yeah. You're going to have to just vamp.
Yeah. So
no pressure or anything.
No. So Print Hustlers in what, 3 words? That's all you want, right?
Yes.
Tacos, bowls, and print, right?
Well, I did pull up the schedule. So Print Hustlers Conf was November 5th on a Saturday through Monday, November 7th. It was in Fort Worth, Texas. And why don't you just kind of give us an overview of, like what it is and like why you went. And then we'll kind of get into like what kind of things you guys learned while you were there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been on my radar. But it's put on by Printavo, but you don't have to be a Printavo user to go to it. And I think like Saturday there was like a workshop for Printavo, but we were just like flying in, so we missed that. But there was like happy hours and welcome dinners, and I think unlike trade shows, this was structured, but you had more time to connect with people outside of the event. So like really a lot of interesting conversations outside of the normal speaking engagements. So I feel like we took a lot from those engagements more than like Saturday or Sunday, which was the main day, was just a lot of overwhelming like lean and everything we're doing at the shop is wrong and we got to figure things out. But there's some really interesting people and people that like I've even followed from a distance. Like they had the guy from Mama's Sauce, and he talked about how he transitioned out and sold his business, and some of his stories were just kind of very interesting where like you get the Instagram view of everybody's business where everything's all peachy keen, and he's talking about how it's
right.
I don't know what I was doing, or we got rid of the only thing that was making us money, and it was kind of neat. And I even got to like connect with him afterwards, which was really cool because I've always looked up to them because I love the handmade letterpress or silk screen posters. Like I'm an avid collector of those show posters and things like that. But I think for us, like Texas was really cool. Like during the first, they had 2 sessions on lean. And like we were in this cool, I don't even know what you want to call that. It was like a radio recording studio type building. It was like bench seating, but in the back they had people doing video editing for like a bull or like a PBR event. So like they were like TV recording studio, but like when the first group let out, there was only like for this big arena like a bathroom with 2 stalls. So. The immediate thing is like there's a big long line of people waiting for the bathroom. I'm like, I'm gonna walk out and see if there's another bathroom. And then like where the event was, there's like bulls that walk the main road for like twice a day.
What?
Yeah. So I posted on my Instagram story. It was like the weirdest because I'm like trying to cross the street to go to like a coffee shop to go to the bathroom. They're like, no, you can't cross. I'm like, why not? And they're like, well, the bulls are gonna. I'm like, what do you mean the bulls are gonna cross? And sure enough, 5 minutes later, they
only in Texas. Yeah.
12 of them walk through and you can get your picture taken, and it's like so. I think just seeing Texas was really cool, and I know historically Print Hustlers has been in like Chicago, so it's kind of neat that they're going to different cities. And I feel like Brett, who has Printed Threads, like really made you feel like these are the cool hot spots to check out, and kind of made you feel welcome. Like I think during the one class, I think it was Covered in Ink, Ryan Kasperian, he had like a family issue, so he couldn't like actually do his talk, but they pulled an audible and pulled the guy from like the visitors center to kind of talk and just kind of talk about how you can, as a shop, be more community minded and kind of make cool things happen. So, but I mean, I think in a nutshell, like the event is, I feel like this is way more worth it than a trade show, because I feel like a trade show you have to work to kind of get stuff out of it, and this was kind of like, here's what you're gonna do, and then we're gonna feed you, and then you're gonna do more learning, and then we're gonna feed you booze, and then we're gonna
nice.
So it was a lot of fun, and I think my biggest takeaway is like, I think when we did this episode a while back, I was like very at the cusp of like, hey, I want to be a lean manufacturer, but I had no idea how to implement it. But some of the people that they had talk really broke it down to a science, and it was just kind of like easier than I thought it was going to be to implement. And I don't want to talk the whole time, so I want to make sure Kailey has.
That's all right. Yeah, I mean, you said a lot. You said like most of it. Yeah, I mean, it was a really great experience, like getting to talk with other people in the industry, and that's like even some of the speakers were like, you can come here and you can listen to people talk and take what you will from it, but getting to talk with other people in the industry was I feel like a highlight. Like even we were at the same hotel as some other people, and we were like eating breakfast with them and just talking shop like in the mornings, which you know, that was fun too.
Well, I also feel like at any of these shows, like screen printers have a certain look to them. So it's kind of like, you know, you're in a touristy area, but it's like, I could talk to that person because he looks like me, or you know.
Nice.
But no, it was. I would highly recommend it if you have the opportunity to go, because just the camaraderie and there was something I was going to say, but I totally blanked.
So do you guys use Printavo in your shop?
No, we're on Deco Network, that was the one funny thing where I think someone's like, so you guys use Printavo? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why are you here? So, but the interesting thing, if you look at the list of speakers, like not all of them are from screen print industries. Like the fast cap guys, what they make, widgets or some, so nothing even related, but they look at it from a manufacturing standpoint of lean. And I think the biggest takeaways from those talks were it's like, don't follow exactly what we say, take the principles and apply it to your shop, so that it's kind of like just any kind of improvement. And then even on the plane ride back, I was listening to a lean book that I downloaded, and like just taking simple acts of like your morning routine. If you have to, you know, walk 3 steps to go get sugar and then walk 4 steps to get cream, or there are ways to lean your breakfast so you're saving, and then like that incremental kind of like compound interest saves you how many weeks in a year or whatever it is.
Right.
I also
I think
hearing from people that aren't in the industry, because it's not like you know, you hear them talk about their shop and it's like, oh, we could try that in our shop, but it probably won't work in your shop because everyone's like very different. So I like hearing from people that aren't in the industry to be like, oh, that's an interesting take on something.
Well, and the other thing too, the last day, which was optional, they had like some cool shop tours of, you know, the actual print shops, but we got to walk around SNS Activewear, which was kind of really eye-opening.
Nice.
Kind of
That's awesome.
Made me feel not as bad when I get a shirt or a box of shirts that are wrong. I'm like, well, shit, I saw how they do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're just zipping around on these little carts and, you know, picking like
just pulling orders. Yeah.
And they're doing them like 4 bins at a time, and it's crazy. But in addition to that, like you could have like that was the weird thing. You could have went to SNS Activewear, or there was a place called Renfro Salsa, so you could see how salsa's made. So,
nice.
But no, I thought it was great, and I'm looking forward to going to these, you know, kind of every year, because I think I did one during the pandemic where it was just like a virtual tour or a virtual webinar thing, and that was interesting to see some, because like I know in the past they've booked names that like the guy that wrote the Pumpkin Plan, Mike Michalowicz, was a
Mike Michalowicz.
Yeah, so
I saw like Justin Lawrence from Oklahoma Shirt Company. Isn't that like a massive freaking operation that he's got going on? Did you guys, or did you see him, or did you like attend any of his talks or anything?
Well, was he?
I just remember him.
He was the MC, I believe.
Oh, right? Was he? Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure. I just have a list of speakers here on this page with the schedule and everything, and I just saw his name, and I don't remember which. It might have actually been the Printavo Print Hustlers podcast that I heard them interviewing him, and his if it's that same company, it's like just massive now, and they, you know, it's kind of one of the, and I think he was talking a lot about lean and how that's really impacted them. And let's actually switch gears a little bit and jump into kind of, I mean, we've been saying the word lean and we're not talking about diets. So John, why don't you share with the listeners, like, what do you mean when you say lean? And then we'll dig into that a little bit, because I'm interested in hearing like how that has affected you, and maybe we'll just tell you to shut up and ask Kailey how that's affected you guys since you moved back. But go ahead and tell us, give us a little definition of what you mean when you say lean.
Yeah, so I kind of talked to him about just improving, you know, shaving seconds off of what you're doing. And the easiest way that I've kind of taken and adopted lean is kind of, you basically need to fix what bugs you. So one thing they talked about was wherever there's like, if someone asks you a question, you want to have an answer right there available. So it's kind of, it's a new process. And one takeaway that we're starting to implement at our shop is little QR codes that link to a video that's on a private YouTube channel of anything from like, hey, here's how you clean up the embroidery backing, or I did one just to kind of get my feet wet of, hey, the water cooler thing in the bottom's empty, here's how you replace it. So just kind of, and eventually our shop's going to look like a teenage boy with acne where there's QR codes everywhere. But I'm hoping it really solves some of the problems where, like, as business owners, I feel like everyone comes to us, and if we are very like, oh yeah, I'll help you, it's good natured, but it's also detrimental because there's only so many hours in the day, and being able to kind of empower people to figure things out on their own, or this is a process that we don't do all the time, but here's the documentation so you're doing it correctly. And if things do get messed up, it's not blaming the person, it's blaming the process. Because I think they had an example where I think they sold a piece of equipment, and the guy was like loading it onto a truck, and the piece of equipment fell off the truck, or fell off when they were loading it onto the truck. And like, you should get mad at the guy, but really should get mad at the process, because that's not something you do all the time. And he wasn't, doing anything negligent. He just didn't, it's not something that he does normally. So, and then the other thing too, in addition to the videos, it's the, I guess some shops will start like their day where they have like an hour where they just kind of clean and always try to improve things. And the big thing is, it's not like a top-down approach. You want to get everybody involved so that like you're celebrating. Like Kailey can come to me and say, hey, I shaved 3 seconds off of this, or we're all kind of like trying to, and the thing is, lean, it's not like, hey, I'm lean, I'm great. You're always trying to improve. So to build that energy and have other people really get behind it and celebrate little wins and kind of address the importance of like something as simple as this wrench is not where it should be. That's a problem. We're losing however much time to find that wrench or tool or whatever you need, where you can pump out that many more t-shirts or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I remember I'm familiar with the concept of lean, and I remember I had a friend who had a warehouse, and it was a good sized warehouse, like 6,000 square feet, and they had they weren't doing printing, they were doing more like wholesale shipments and things like that, and they had like a hand truck, that they would move boxes and move stuff, and maybe it was a pallet jack. I think it was a pallet jack they ended up buying 3 more pallet jacks just so they wouldn't have to go all the way down 5,000 square feet to the other end to get the pallet jack and then bring it back. So they had spaces that they outlined, just like you're talking about, for the pallet jack, and they had 4 of them in different areas. And so you were always, and when you were done, you put it back there, and it was always, within, 15 steps of you or whatever, if you needed a pallet jack at any one of their entries. So, I mean, it's things like that, while you're like, man, I don't want to buy 3 more pallet jacks. That's a lot of money. But when you extrapolate the time savings over the course of a year or multiple years, those pallet jacks actually saved you money in the long run. Well, is that similar to kind of what you guys are trying to think about implementing at the Graphic Hive?
I mean, I have 3 pallet jacks, but our shop's really small, so I don't think we need that many to navigate. And we don't do that much pallets anyways. But
right.
No, I think there are things where I used to keep all the tools in one toolbox, and it was kind of unorganized. But if there's something that needs to be readily available, it should be. And I've always, and Kailey can attest to this, people call me Hurricane John, where I'll do something on the weekend, and then like they'll come in and there's like tools everywhere, and I'm the worst at that kind of thing. But trying to be more disciplined, and the other thing too is the one guy talked about how he like, I think he had bankers come into his shop and they were saying that like, wow, this is really organized and everything's great. But because he wasn't doing lean, he was kind of sitting on excess inventory, and like having excess kind of compounds with the cost to manage it, the cost to store it, all that kind of stuff. So I'm even trying to, like, we used to have a lot of extra t-shirts from, when you're printing stuff, we just have extra in case there's manufacturer defects or something happens during the printing process. But I'm trying to just eliminate that so we have less stuff to deal with. So.
So Kailey, it's your turn. What are some of the things that you feel like either you have already done since you've been back, or you want to do that, you may or may not have already told John about?
So he kind of said some of the stuff that I already I wanted to talk about. I really liked the idea of taking 30 minutes or an hour at the beginning of each day, or a few days out of the week to clean and keep your space organized, because that's something that we always put off in our shop. We're like, okay, we're gonna do cleaning on the end of the day on Friday, and then end of the day on Friday comes and we're like, oh, we don't have time to clean. Something goes wrong during the day, and then we have to play catch up. So taking time at the beginning of the day, because it's important to have a clean space, because then everyone feels better about being in that space. And they also talked about the 3 S's. That's kind of sweep, sort, and standardize. I got my own notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So in the morning you come in and you clean up your area a little bit, and then you find one thing and you sort through it. And the example that they had was a bunch of wrenches. They had at Print Hustlers, they were talking about, they had just this big bin of all these wrenches. So they went through and they sorted them, and they just picked out all the ones that they have duplicates of, and got rid of all those, and then standardized that okay, this is where these go, and anytime that you need one, it's going to be here, and it's easy to go and just find that. So that's something that I really want to do, is just take time in the morning to try and put those processes in place, because I'm not gonna lie, we're a little unorganized right now.
I'm guilty, where I have a toolbox with probably 800 Allen keys, and I guarantee you 50% of them are the same Allen key.
And I also liked one thing that they had said was, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So basically, just get something in place. Just start doing something. It doesn't have to be fine-tuned. As long as you just start doing it, you can keep making improvements to it.
Interesting.
Too, Kailey didn't mention, and I want to figure out how to implement a little bit more, are the Kanban cards. And
yep, we do. We use those here at our shop for our stock stuff. Yeah.
I did the lazy way where I have a Slack channel called shopping list, and I ask people to take pictures, but sometimes you don't get all the information you need, or you say, hey, could you add this, and it never happens, or it never gets ordered. So being able to just have those cards where it kind of, when should you order, where do we order it from, you know? I know, I think Corey from Floodway, some of his, it's he has QR codes that'll generate an email to almost make the order. All you gotta do is hit send.
Wow.
It doesn't even need to involve whoever's doing it. So
wow.
Yeah, ours are they have they're those laminated cards, and they have 3 or 4 QR codes that take you to the potential, or the website. You got to be logged in, but it takes you to that page for that product. The only challenge is that we kind of, when we did this, it was kind of in the middle of COVID, and stock was so terrible. We have changed some of our preferred providers now, and so they're maybe out of order, for certain things, and we haven't taken the time to go through all of them and redo them all. But yeah, when they're fine-tuned, when they're working, man, it's really great to get down to the last whatever, you have a few left or whatever, and you go, okay, well, that's where the card was. Pull the card and put it in with the rest of your orders for everything else. So yeah, that's Kanban is actually, is that a Japanese term or a Japanese word? Are you familiar with that?
There were a few Japanese words and phrases that I had notes for that like kind of played into the philosophy. I'm not sure what it actually means, but
yeah, lean manufacturing, and it kind of originated with the Toyota Motor Company, in I think the 80s or 90s, and it's really kind of just blossomed from there, and it's taken over a lot of the Six Sigma and all of that stuff kind of encapsulates some of that. And I'm kind of talking out of my butt right now because I don't know a whole lot about it. I know just enough to fill a podcast, 60 seconds or so. And and then what we've actually implemented here, I think I actually there is the guy that you're listening to on the way home you were talking about. I think I know who you're talking about because I remember his story about the cream and sugar and all of that in the morning, and he's got that on like a podcast, and he's got a little book and the whole deal. And it's, if you want to get into the lean manufacturing ideals, he is a great follow. What do you remember his name, John?
So the book is 2 Second Lean by Paul A. Akers.
Paul Akers. Yep. Paul Akers. And he's got a ton of videos. He actually owns a manufacturing plant, a facility, and they've made it completely lean. And he is like over the top lean thinking. I mean, it's like, borderline, he needs medication is what I'm talking about. Yeah. But if you go, you can search his name and just look at some of his videos on YouTube of his actual facility and some of the things that they've done to lean up, to shave seconds off of, packaging this particular product or whatever. And, making sure that you have everything within, at your station, that you can just grab it off the shelves and you don't have to like take steps to go get it. And I mean, just all of that is, it's really fascinating when you jump in. And I too heard some people talking about it and kind of started going down the rabbit hole and got really excited about it. And that's why we have Kanban cards here. We have stations that, for packing that have, you've got your tape gun, and they're color coded. So, okay, that's the green station. This is the blue station, and don't put your green tape gun on my blue station, And so we've implemented some of those things, and it does sound a little bit crazy. You're like, why the heck do you care whose gun it is, or tape gun? Well, if I need one, I don't want to have to go looking for it. I need the one that's on the blue table, and it does make sense the more you get into it. But Paul Akers, I would highly recommend our listeners, just if you're interested in this at all, go search YouTube for some of his videos. And he's got some free resources and things like that. This little podcast thing that he's got that has like the whole book read for you. So that's my little spiel on that. Now, I did want to, so last time John was on, we were talking about the Graphic Hive, and he's very gracious to come on the show. And then he actually sent us a gift, and I posted about this in the Facebook group. And he sent us these really cool shirts that, if you're watching, you can kind of see. He's actually wearing one, I think, right now, but it's got the Graphic Hive left chest. And then on the back, it's got this baller dog, man. It's super, super cool. The graphic, let's see if I can get it centered there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then he's got these really cool stickers that he sent us too. Print dogs, Graphic Hive print dogs. But I did hear when we were asking Kailey, is like, Kailey, what do you do at the Graphic Hive? She was like, a little of everything. And you guys showed us something that she did do, her first embroidery job. And you know how we feel about embroidery here on the Print on Demand cast.
Yes.
Show that thing. Show that. Guys, if you're watching, that is embroidery.
Yeah.
It's 4. You said 4 hours. Is that what you said?
It's 4 hours. It's 144,000 stitches. I know, Josiah, you said, you rage quit when you're on the embroidery machine.
I do.
Kailey's still working, so.
Well, my question to you, Kailey, is what's your preferred drink when you're manning the embroidery station? I need to know.
Well, okay, so here's the thing with that job is I actually did that like off the clock. I was going to spend the night at work because it's close to the bars. So I was like, before I go out, I'll just run these real quick. And then like by the time they were done, it was like 9 o'clock.
4 hours later.
My gosh. That is incredible.
You could have just started the damn thing and gone and got a drink, had a couple of them, and then come back.
The amount of times that I had to replace the bobbin,
I believe it. Yeah.
It would have never gotten done.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd like to invent is the continuous bobbin.
Yeah, the everlasting
self-replenishing bobbin. Yeah, everlasting bobbin.
Everlasting bobbin.
That'd
Sounds like a Willy Wonka invention.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, is there anything else about the conference you want to share? Any other like cool speakers or cool like maybe techniques? I mean, we are on the Print on Demand cast, and you guys are doing more screen printing. I don't know how much print on demand per se you guys are doing, but was there anything that like from this conference that dove into kind of print on demand or fulfillment by demand or anything like that they were sharing?
Not really. Like really, I feel like trying to think of some of the. So the one thing I did like at the end, and they're kind of I don't know if it's a competing podcast or if you even care, but
we don't care.
Yeah. So Shirt Show had a panel where they brought in Tony from Tiny Fish and what was the other guy? I forget, but it was kind of neat because they talked. It was more of like a wrap up than originally. I think the thing was supposed to be about shop hacks, but I think everyone listens to their podcast and knows all the different shop hacks. But really, it was kind of a nice wrap up of lean and kind of how other shops are implementing it. And then the other thing too that I think is a big takeaway and doesn't necessarily have to be like screen printer folks. I think there might be a DTG channel on it. But Shirt Show has a Discord channel, which is kind of like, unlike the Facebook groups where everyone's all negative and, ripping apart the newbie. They try to keep it very friendly, and it's actually organized by like different categories. So like Discord's similar to Slack, and it's probably one of the most active things I've ever seen where I turned off all the notifications because it was just ridiculous. But it's good to every once in a while just go in there for, 20 minutes, go through. Like there's a lean channel, there's an embroidery channel, there's, discussions about the show and things like that. So I think it's kind of neat that all of us are in the same industry and we're so willing to share just what we know or what problems we're faced with. And people are there to kind of hopefully help out and not be dicks about it. I mean, there are people that are, that's all their MO is. Like, I think it's what screen printing's shittiest is my funniest thing on Facebook right now.
So would you say that the conference in like at least a lot of the conference wasn't necessarily just about screen printing or techniques or anything like that, that if somebody like me who I've never pulled a squeegee, never, ever, if I came, would I have had as a positive experience as you did, just because of the relationships and maybe some of the topics that weren't necessarily so technical?
I believe so, because at the end of the day, whether it's in a seminar or you see someone across the room that's waiting for tacos, and you're just talking about like what their shop is, and you're just learning a little bit more. And I think the neat thing is I kind of want to go on like a shop tour of like, up and down the East Coast. Like I'm on vacation, but hey, this print shop's here. I'm going to go hang out with them for an hour or two, like that kind of neat camaraderie is really invaluable. And it's something I've never seen in any other industry. So.
That's cool. Kailey, is this the first like conference that you've been to, or have you been to other shows and trade shows or conferences or anything like that?
The first one that I ever went to was earlier this year in Long Beach, and then we went to Atlantic City, and then Vegas, and then Texas. So that was my fourth.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
So you guys
honestly,
went to Print United?
yeah, we went to Print United.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Which was insane.
Yeah,
It is.
so big.
That is the most insane
it's
show
wa-
ever.
Yeah. Yep.
too much stuff, too many robots doing way too much stuff.
Yeah, I think we went when it was still SGIA. I think the last
Mhm.
year that it was SGIA
Yeah.
is when we were there. So yeah, Kay, it sounds like you are a well-versed trade show conference
Well,
now.
And
So,
prior to this year, all we did was Atlantic City. Like it was I think this year I'm really trying to evaluate which ones are worthwhile, which ones
Sure.
make sense, and
Mhm.
you know, I think the one thing you can't take away from trade shows are being able to see equipment and talk to manufacturers and
Exactly.
learn from that standpoint. But I also do like this. It almost felt like going to college or something like that, where well, it had everything there. It's like, okay, here's your class from this time to this time, and then go eat some tacos, and then we're gonna have beer later, and then we'll do it all again tomorrow.
Right. Are you planning on going to ISS Long Beach in January?
That's up in the air. I mean,
Kaylee wants to go. You can tell.
Well,
We're going.
Secretly,
We're going.
We'll be
Come
there.
on. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
In tandem this time. Wait, this way. In tandem this time. So we're good.
No, we actually have an interesting opportunity that, cross our fingers, goes through. But when we were at Print United, we were talking to the people at Rock, and Kailey was joking around, going, because I think Lindsay was asking, "Hey, are you guys going to ISS?" And it's like, "Is Rock paying for it?" And she's like, "Well, if you can run a press, we might be able to." So. And that got my gears spinning, where we actually work with an artist named Johnny Romeo from Australia. And we've printed some cool versions of his artwork. Actually, I have a thing on the wall I'll kind of show real quick. Yeah, this is great.
Oh, wow. That's
That's
awesome.
super cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like pop art, very colorful. But he's actually going to be in Los Angeles around the time of Long Beach. So assuming all goes well with the powers that be at Rock, we might be running a press, printing Johnny Romeo shirts, and Johnny will be right there besides us. So,
that's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to, if you guys end up going, let us know, and we'll
connect.
Well, you're teaching a class, aren't you?
Yep, I'm going to teach a class on print on demand, and tell all these print shop owners, why they're leaving money on the table. Because there's so much money in the print on demand game, and they probably have some equipment that can help them get into it. And they might have to buy a machine or something like that. But overall, they're very well positioned to win in the print on demand game. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, our audience has always kind of been more of a, the person who's just getting into the game. They're just, starting their business, and, we're trying to help them. So this will be kind of the other side of it. It's like, these guys have established businesses, they're at a trade show to look at, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, pieces of equipment. And here I am saying, hey, you should also look at this stuff, because there's this whole other part of the printing industry that you're not aware of. When Josiah and I first,
it was Portland.
I know this is your interview, but I'm gonna just keep talking. When we first went to Portland, it was the NBM, which is now the Graphics Pro Expos. And when we were there, we were looking at all these different machines and just drinking from a fire hose. It was incredible. But when we would talk to people, we would ask them about their e-commerce presence, and almost everyone was like, what do you mean? Why would I do e-com? Why do I need that? I have all these contracts with, and I'm selling all this stuff locally. And we were like, oh my gosh, this industry hasn't really caught up with what's going on outside of the industry, because e-commerce was booming, and we were both in e-commerce, just selling other things, not printing. Sure. And I've seen a lot of things, kind of catch up, I guess, but I still think that there's just so much opportunity for people who already know more than most of the people who are actually doing it sitting in
Yeah.
their living room and having Printful or Printify fulfill all their stuff. They have the ability to do what Printful and Printify can do, and sell their own stuff and have amazing margins, because you're not selling at wholesale anymore. You're selling at retail, and your cost of goods is the same. And retail is going to get you a lot more money than wholesale is going to get you. So anyway, that's the sneak peek. So I guess
I was
just
just going to say that. I was just going to be like, ladies and gentlemen, Travis Ross, what a great monologue there. We don't have to go to that class, John. We can get a head start on the breweries or go get a beer or something.
There you go.
Just let Travis know where we're at that point.
Well, and I think that's where we do have DTG in house, and I feel like DTG for us has been more of I don't want to set up a 6 color for one t-shirt. Yeah. It's saved us, but it hasn't really proved we don't have the business model yet to have we do stores for the different organizations and things, but I try to save those as pre-order, bulk produce, ship and fulfill. And I haven't put sunk my teeth into just a store that's open all the time. That is, here's our morning where there's 20 shirts to get out or something like that.
Yeah.
We're still doing that kind of wholesale, but sort of retail and trying to evolve that into something where I do have a plethora of designs that either we just did on the side, or
there you go,
or designs that clients didn't like, and they're still good design. There's certain there's libraries and stuff. It's a matter of getting it up there. And the other thing too I want to do with my print on demand is make it more self-service. Because at the end of the day, if I'm sitting down with somebody, I want to talk to them about many shirts, not one.
Of course.
And that's a lean thinking in terms of return on investment. But yeah, that's been our struggles with DTG, where it's we're still learning it. I'm kind of accepting the quality limitations that it has, but at the end of the day, some of the end users don't care as much as a printer would. So
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's actually good feedback, because I think that's one of the kind of objections that I would need to overcome. It's well, why would I want to sell one shirt when I can sell 100 or 1,000? And that's an excellent point. But if I can sell one shirt for 25 or 30 bucks, and I've got $5 in it, that's, if I can keep doing that, if I can build that somehow into my model and lean that out, the process to get the art and choose the shirt and all of that, there's a lot more meat on the bone. It might not be as immediate as selling 1,000 shirt order. I mean, hell, I'll do 1,000 shirt order, please, and I'm going to sub it out to a guy like you.
Well, I think some of the other thing too is the on demand, and they'll pay up front. It's the cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
I might sell 1,000 shirts and not get paid till 30 days later. Where that $20 is a 6-pack or whatever.
So what you're saying is, if you do shirts one at a time, you'll drink more.
There you go.
That's actually, that might be true as I sip on my Coors Light tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey, Josiah, let's do some magic questions with Kailey, because she didn't.
I was just going to suggest that, actually.
Okay,
I was getting into. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Kailey, and we're going to go find those magic questions. And while we do that, I would like you to enjoy a erroneous and unnecessary bumper to the section that we usually call magic questions.
Magical.
Every time. And it still hasn't been taken down for copyright. So praise the living God. It's just not happened. Okay, Travis, I'll let you start. Which one do you want to go with here for Kailey. I mean, I think we both know what the last one will be because typically
we do.
is. But you pick one, and then I'll pick one, and then we'll hit her with the third one. And she looks so nervous right now. But you're gonna be fine. It's gonna be just fine. Okay, Travis, go ahead.
All right, Kailey, tell us about a time that something went horribly wrong in your business, and what did you do?
Don't say start working here.
Oh my gosh. A time that something went horribly wrong. Help.
Maybe something you didn't, that happened, and you're like, oh God, I don't ever want to do that again.
Well, I have one where I think this was the first time running a job on the auto by herself, and something was going on, and she just kind of left the machine and left it go.
Okay. But here's the thing. So our press op, he had to leave, and I was like, oh no, it's fine. Like, I can run the job. Like, it was already set up. I was like, I'm good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And like the shirts were like sticking to the screens, and it was just lifting, and I got like maybe 5 shirts in, and I was like, these all look awful. And he had told me, our press op told me, he's like, if things go wrong, just leave it. So I did. I left all the shirts on the press. I left the press on. I left work.
Oh no.
I was like,
so the press was still operating?
Huh?
Well, it wasn't running, it was just on.
Oh.
It was on idle. Yeah.
Because I have this mental image of the press just, and the ink just keeps on going over and over.
Ink everywhere. And
So there's that one, and then a little less minor. We had to refill our dip tank because the water was disgusting, and we thought that, I was like, all right, we can start refilling it. Like, it'll take a while to refill. It's kind of a big tank, and so we left to go get lunch. And while the dip tank was still filling, and
not that big.
We came back, and I was like, what's that sound? And I look over, and the floor is just like, there is water everywhere. I was like,
oh no,
holy shit. I ran over, I like ripped the hose out of the dip tank, I threw it in the washout booth, and I grabbed the mop, and I was like, we need to clean this up before John sees it.
Before John sees it.
It was fine, but I was like, never gonna do that again.
Well, speaking of the dark room, what about the washer?
Okay, one more.
One more.
So
yeah, how long is this podcast? Keep going.
So one more. We have like our we use bricks to hold the screens down.
In the dip tank, so because they're buoyant, so it pushes them down, so the chemistry gets.
So we have bricks that will hold them down, and this dip tank is right next to our washer. And it was not me, but somehow someone pushed a brick into the washer, and I needed to do a wash test on a shirt, and I didn't look in the washer. I didn't figure that there would be anything in there. So I put the shirt in, and I turn it on, and I walk away. And I'm standing. The thing is, I'm standing on the other side of like the wall that our washer is on, and I'm like, man, what is that noise? Because you just hear like thud, thud, thud. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And later, someone goes in, and they're like, why is there a brick in the washer? I'm like,
it's the cleanest brick after that.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
Gosh.
All right. Well, changing gears a little bit. Typically, this question is, why did you choose your specific area of expertise? But I guess what I want to know, just to give some more context and learn more of your story, is what brought you to the Graphic Hive? How did you find John? What was that like? What's your background? Are you a graphic artist? Were you just looking for a job? How did you come into contact with John and the Graphic Hive?
So it all started in like the early 2010s when John met my mom. So John is actually my stepdad, and in like late 2020, they were struggling a little bit because they had this one client that was really big, and they needed some help at like the end of the dryer.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, I'm in college, I need money.
Yeah.
I'll come work. And
Right.
when I started working there, my plan was to not stay there for very long. But then I started off at the end of the dryer, just like catching shirts, folding,
Mhm.
whatever. And then I became more interested in the way that everything works, and I really got interested in like actually running the press. Like I love being up by the press and like pulling shirts and everything. So
Yeah.
I started like learning more about screen printing, and then whenever we went, like it really clicked for me that this is what I wanted to do when we went to Long Beach, and I met a bunch of other people in the industry, and I became friends with some of them, and I was
Sure.
like, and then like I got so many ideas that like coming back I wanted to bring back to the shop, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I love screen printing, and like I love this industry.
Well, and just to add to that, us going to Long Beach was the launch of the Print Girl Mafia, which I think is a really cool group where it's women in the industry, and you know, it's not a few. There's a lot of women in the industry, and that whole group is about empowering you guys to like be treated equally at the shows and you know, in any kind of interaction where so, and then you know, bravo to that. And that's why I think it's a neat, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was like perfect timing, I think, when you went where that happened as well. So
yeah, it was like they like talking to them and meeting everyone in the Print Girl Mafia. I was like, I love this community. Like they're so supportive and they're so like helpful. Like if I have questions, I can reach out to any of them, and they don't like criticize me for like not knowing something. It's like they genuinely want everyone to succeed. So
Sure.
it was great meeting them, and they're just like the best people. So it's part of like the reason that I love what I'm doing so much is like the community, and they have helped like foster that in me a lot.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. Okay, we got one more for you, and I don't know. You guys aren't necessarily doing print on demand, but you are human and you have opinions. So this is the last question. You have to peer into your crystal ball, and you have to tell our listeners and us, what do you think the future of print on demand is? Where's it going?
Well, my answer, I think I saw it at Vegas. It was that Carnival ride that's a freaking DTG printer that you put the shirt on, you scan the barcode, it pre-treats, it heats it, it throws into one of the two DTG printers, and it comes back around, heat presses it, and you have a finished shirt.
Wow.
Yeah, second that.
Was that the oval? Do you remember what it was called?
I don't know what the name of it was, but it reminded me of like something you'd get on at an amusement park, but you're making a shirt.
Okay.
That's awesome.
But I think, you know, well, that's strictly looking at print on demand. I think hybrid is another way to go, because like I look at a shop, well, our shop configuration, I'm pushing the limits to print that shirt that you held up. Like I've got an 8-color 10 station, and we had to move the flash to one of the unload stations because I just don't have the square footage to have a big wide 14 or 16 color press. I could put a hybrid in because it's, you know, like a couple whites and then a digital color. So that might be part of what's going on in the future. But what's to say?
Sure. Well, cool. Well, guys, thanks for spending your Monday night with us.
Yeah.
And you guys are in New Jersey? Pennsylvania. That's what I said. Pennsylvania.
Home a little.
That's right. I remember Pennsylvania. Well, it was, like I say, it was great having you guys on and just chatting, hearing kind of where you guys are at and I can tell the excitement in your voices, coming back from the Print Hustlers Comp, and it sounds like you guys hit the conference and trade show scene pretty hard this year, man. 4 shows, 4 things. That's pretty awesome. I'm sure you guys have a lot of ideas and things banging around your head. And I also hope you guys come out to ISS in January and we can hang out a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. But thanks for coming on the show, guys.
From Rock, so we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we'll see you in January.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yep. See ya.
No dad joke?
Oh, that's right. He saved it.
You did.
Wow.
John.
Do you want to be the third chair here? Because you apparently do our job better than we do. It's time for the weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
All right. So, Kailey, if you haven't caught on by now, in my spare time, I make really ridiculous and unnecessary bumpers specifically for this show. There's a lot of them. But that being said, it is time for the weekly dad joke. And so you guys are the guests. And Kailey, I know you have a plethora of jokes to choose from for an undisclosed reason that we won't get into right now, because that person may or may not be listening. And if they were, what a coincidence. But why don't we just get into your guys' weekly dad joke? You can start us off here.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Where do you learn to make ice cream?
Where do you learn?
No idea.
I have no idea.
Sunday school.
Wow, that was good. Nice.
Okay.
All right. Well, I may or may not know why that particular source is left on red, but hey, that was great. It was a good dad joke. Yeah. So, Travis, do you want to do ours? Our dad joke?
No, you go ahead. You do
okay.
it. You do it.
All right. So, what do you give a cannibal that is late to dinner? The cold shoulder. And that's our dad joke of the week. John, thank you so much for saving.
You saved the whole show.
The whole show. Because had there not been a dad joke, inevitably someone out of the tens of hundreds of listeners that we have each week would have pointed it out and wanted to know what happened. But yeah, thanks. And for those that are listening, we did mention that John was a previous guest on the show, and he is actually in episode 77, so you can find it there. Slow and Steady Print Shop Growth with John Yogodzinski. It was a great episode, and it's great to have you back on here, John, and we hope to catch up with you guys, not only in person. Hey, listen, if we do meet in person, we have a mobile rig now where we can actually record on site, so perhaps we'll just find a nice brewery or bar and find a dark. When I say dark corner, it sounds way more creepy than I'm intending it to. I'm just saying we can enjoy some drinks and record an in-person podcast and catch up on the show and how your experience at Rock is going, because hopefully that goes through for you guys, because that sounds like an incredible opportunity for you.
As long as the press run's fine, I won't be hitting the bar too hard.
All right. Sounds good. All right. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. See you.
We want to thank John and Kailey one more time for coming on to the show. It was great to catch up with John again and see kind of where they have come from. Again, we mentioned episode 77 was the last time John was on the show. You can kind of go learn more about him, his background, how he started the Graphic Hive, and learn more, about his history. But it was great to have him back on with Kailey. And sounds like that trade show or that conference rather, is a lot of fun. Sounds like it was a good time. They kept talking about tacos. I meant to ask them which ones, what kind, what was your favorite? Was it a food truck? What's happening? But yeah, it sounds like it's a lot of fun. So, what did you think of the conversation?
I loved it. I was actually having a conversation about how it seems as though conferences have kind of, like in the 90s, conferences were all the rage. And it's interesting because I think they have probably less attendance now than they used to, and it's partially because information is free, and it used to not be. You has to go somewhere and get that, but now you
have to seek it out, but now it just finds you.
And so when people have conferences and they actually have successful conferences and conferences that people want to go to, they have to make it more experience driven and relationship driven. And I think from the schedule I pulled up to see kind of what they were doing, and then from what John and Kailey were talking about, it seems like that's exactly what Print Hustlers conference was. It was more experience driven and relationship driven than it was knowledge necessarily. And information. So kudos to those guys. It does sound like a really cool conference. And I'd love to go someday, honestly, even though I'm not a screen printer. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Just again, we've talked about a lot on the show about, the conferences, trade shows. The best part is the networking. Not necessarily even the educational courses, but just the networking and seeing what's on the floor. And it sounds like, the Print Hustlers conference, like you said, they've kind of realized that and put an emphasis on the experience, which if you pay attention to a lot of language around these kinds of events now, people are starting to use the word experience. It's a one-night experience. It's a one-day, whatever, because they are wanting to make it more immersive than just come, take a seat, wear a name tag, listen to a guy talk, that kind of thing. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like it'd be a great one to attend in person. It sounds like they're also taking it further. I mean, in different, I guess it used to just be in Chicago, so it sounds like they're branching out from there. So if we hear or get more information about where they're going to be, if you're listening and you're interested, even if you're not a screen printer, and you just kind of want to go immerse yourself and meet people and get some ideas, and because you never know what will happen at these places with the people that you meet, we can definitely keep you guys updated as to when the next one is going to take place and where.
I know one, it's not a conference, but I know one place that we might all be, and that's ISS Long Beach in January.
That is correct. ISS Long Beach. Now, is the free registration for, is it over? Did it end recently? I thought I saw something to that effect.
It was the last. Yeah, I posted about it last week, and then today I got an email, and I posted again today on Monday that they have extended it through Friday. So if you're listening to this and you're like, you're like, man, John and Kailey really got a lot out of that. Maybe I should go to Long Beach. Well, you still can for free. It's not necessarily the conference part. I mean, although they do have a training that you can pay extra to go to, the expo part is free. So, whatever you want to do. So, it's if you're listening to this, great show.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, like Travis said, it's extended to the 18th. So if you're listening to this before November 18th or even on November 18th, you can register for free still and get locked in, and then let us know again in the Facebook group if you are making plans to head that direction, because we'd love to meet as many of you that listen to the show as possible, just to say hi. You say thank you. I mean, honestly, it's awesome to meet people who listen and are gaining knowledge from what Travis and I, the content that we're putting out there, because that's the goal. We want to be helpful. And so when people let us know, hey, you guys have been really helpful in the beginning stages, or I love the banter, I love the guests, I love the interviews, whatever, any and all feedback is welcome. So yeah, we'd be really, really happy to meet all of you guys. So let us know if you are en route to Long Beach, January 20th, the weekend of January 20th, because we will want to connect and, have a couple drinks and have a good time. So with that, Travis, anything else before we wrap it up and take this one home?
No, I think we're good. Go for it, man.
Awesome. Well, again, you heard me mention the Facebook group. PrintOnDemandCast.com/Facebook is where you can join the group and join the conversation, join the community, join the family. Let us know if you have any questions for any of our guests, for John, for Kailey, any future guests, past guests. We try to, have them a part of the group so that you can tag them and ask them questions as well. But also just in general, any questions that you might have, posted in there, because inevitably someone in the community will have an answer or have some insight for you. That's not just Travis and myself. So again, we started that to kind of hopefully have it be conducive to building a community of people who are like-minded, who want to help one another succeed. So we're on other social media platforms as well, printondemandcast.com/YouTube and printondemandcast.com/Instagram. You can follow us there. Wherever podcasts are, the PODcast is there for you. Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, any of the other platforms. We're on like 9 of the platforms out there, all of the major ones. You can find us. If you're listening to the iTunes app, the podcast app. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show, your favorite guest, your favorite segment, your favorite dad joke, what you would like to hear. But what that does is it helps the algorithms and helps this information get to the people who need to hear it, who will find it as beneficial as you hopefully have up until this point for the last 117 episodes. So really, that helps us out tremendously, and Travis and I are super grateful. And again, we will shout you out if we do see that we have a new one. We will mention it, and we will let you shout you out and say thank you and read the review, so that you can tell all of your friends that your favorite print on demand podcast guys have shouted you out on their show. So I mean, bragging rights, kind of, if they're
That's big.
even, yeah, it's huge. But yeah, thank you guys so much. If you don't like social media, by the way, you can email us info@printondemandcast.com and let us know the questions that you have. But other than that, Travis, anything else? We're good?
Not a thing.
All right. Well, then for Josiah, I'm Josiah. For Travis, we'll see you next week right here on the Print on Demand cast.
See ya.
Good Lord. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't really talk.
True international effort to pressure.
All right. See you guys next week.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.